Good morning, friends. It's good to be here this morning. Thanks for joining us here at Journey Home Meditation for the morning sit. It's a lovely, almost summer morning here in Southern Oregon, and I'm sitting in the Beside Meditation Hall at Journey Home. And I'm looking around at this amazing space that so many hands came together to build, and I'm just surrounded by love when I'm in this space. Truly am surrounded by love in this space. There's all these beautiful markings of the mistakes that were made through our hubris or our ignorance or our stubbornness. And, some people have suggested fixing some of these things or what I could do to make them look better. But honestly, I love what we have created here with all of its character, all of its stories. So all that is to say, I am very happy to be here this morning. Howdy Om. Today we're going to do our program of some shared breathing, and I'm going to do some contemplation this morning. And I had a topic suggestion of talking about forgiveness. So that's an easy one for me to talk about. It's kind of been one of the pillars of my practice is sitting with and welcoming forgiveness into this experience. So that's what I'm going to talk about this morning a bit, and the ways in which this practice can both facilitate and be facilitated by our forgiveness. And then we're going to get to some poems. I think we're just going to do Appalachian Elegy this morning, but we may, who knows what we may do. But first, let's just take a few moments to allow our bodies to settle into place. Sometimes the practice of finding place is frustratingly difficult. But there are a few things we can do to help make this process more accessible. And one of those things is to utilize our senses to serve this purpose. So when we're talking about settling in, we need to find safety and security and relax into just being in this moment, not thinking about the next 5 things we have to do, not thinking about the 15 minutes that I was late getting started this morning, and all of those things. And using our senses is a way that we can have input coming into us that is inviting us here, because our senses are not in the future or in the past. Our senses are always in the moment. So for me, I come in the morning and I prep the space. This morning was somewhat quickly prepped, but it was prepped. I light candles. I brush the floor quickly today. And I set up my cushion and the bell, and I light incense. Um, so I can smell the incense in the air right now, and that's one way to remind myself that I'm here. But maybe where you are right now, just using your sense of smell. Now, the smell is so closely related to our memory, um, that when we are in the space, if we have a practice of being in this place regularly, that can help. And just noticing what it is. I have the sweet and smell of smoke and flowers. You can smell the dust in the air from the ground all around that's drying out in the warming sun of each day. What is it that you're smelling that's bringing you into place? And then I move on to my sense of touch, my skin. Let's feel what that is telling you right now. Is there a breeze in the room? Are you feeling the morning cold, or are you feeling the heat from the day already beginning? What's the taste in your mouth? Maybe you're tasting your morning coffee or tea, or you haven't brushed yet, so you're tasting all of those tastes of sleep. And what's the sounds in the room? You're hearing the sound of my voice, but what is the sound of the place where you are? What is the light like in the room? If you close your eyes, do you see the dancing of the light and the shadow on your eyelids? Just be in this place. And then let's follow our breath all the way into our body, breathing in through the nose to the bottom of the belly. Let's take a few breaths until we start to feel release in our bodies and relaxation, our mind settling, our emotions beginning to calm and just be open to receive. Let's breathe. bringing your spine into an upright position if you're seated, or if you're lying down, just straightening your spine and opening up all of the muscles in your abdomen, your ribs, your lower back, just stretching your body open. If you are seated, have your feet comfortably on the ground or legs crossed in a comfortable position. Letting the shoulders drop down and gently bring the shoulder blades together in the back, just enough to open your chest. Right here, just open that spot. Turning your hands palms upward is just enough to roll those shoulders open. Feel the difference in your breath when you release all of the air from your chest with your shoulders open. And breathe into the bottom of the belly. Let's do 3 breaths together. Breathing in. I am here. Breathing out. Right now. Breathing in. I am here. Right now. I am here. Right now. Thanks, friends. Thanks for joining in on that practice together. It's comforting to know, even as separate as we may feel because of distance, that we can share these breaths together in the same moment. The consciousness, the awareness reminds us of our connectivity all the time. Even when our awareness is bringing us to become aware of feelings of disconnect, those feelings of disconnect is an awareness that I should feel connected. Why am I feeling the disconnect? What is keeping me separate from belonging in this moment? So even that awareness is lovable. Ram Dass has a beautiful mantra of I am loving awareness. I am loving awareness. Just as things arise, we can love them. What does it mean to love these things? I think that there's a difficulty in explaining what that kind of love is. But I think that if we can recognize that something is here and it belongs, that's love. If we can recognize that something comes as it is without fear, or even with fear, it has to go deeper than that. It has to go into the unconditionalness of the love, doesn't it? If I am to be in love, it must be with everything all at once. And I think to love is to feel yourself open and grow and settle and expand and contract. And to be forever in a moment. Maybe that's what it is. But I think this is where we come into the topic of forgiveness. Um, what is that thing that keeps us from feeling connected in any moment? Connected to um, our partners, our family, our friends, our coworkers, um, connected to our history, to know that we are of something, not an accident or a mistake, or um, to not have feelings of blame and guilt and shame that want to come up time and again that keep us separated from that acceptance and connection. And there's that one or two thoughts that's right there, those beliefs. Um, and that's where forgiveness is, that's where it lives. So I don't really know how to enter into this topic from the beginning. It usually has to come from an organic understanding, but I think what I'll do is just tell a story. And I don't know if I've told this story before, but I had a lipoma, a fatty tumor that was the size of two full fists, maybe even a little larger. It started off as this small thing in the middle of my back, right next to my spine, nestled between my spine and my right shoulder blade. And it started off as just this little bump. And over the years, that little bump grew and accumulated and collected. And at that time in my life that was happening, I was going through a really robust and difficult and sticky periods of communication with the people in my life. There were feelings of betrayal that were happening. There were feelings of disconnection, feelings of being othered a lot. I was carrying a lot of this feeling that I'm not being accepted into the group or the collective, or that maybe my gifts that I'm offering are being taken for granted or being exploited. There were all these things, and I don't know to this day where those things necessarily were born from, but they were occurring. They were coming out for all of us, not just for me. We were having this collective sort of explosions that were occurring. We were also creating beautiful art. We were creating gorgeous music and beautiful paintings and deep, enriched poems. And we were traveling the country making music, and we were doing all of these things together in this group. But it was all built on this fire energy, right? This like burn, burn, burn energy. And that's the thing, is when that is the only thing that you share in common, the only thing that you bring your attention to, it burns everything. And so I was feeling quite burnt. And as I was moving through, this tumor was growing and growing and growing, and years had gone by, and I'd had this very large kind of hunchback that I was carrying around with me. And it definitely contributed to my body dysmorphia, definitely contributed to my inability to feel sexually attractive or to want to be embraced by people in deep hugs, which is so important to me. So I was closing myself off from intimacy. I was closing myself off from closeness or being nurtured or tended to. And I was sort of narrowing down who could do that. And it really came down to just my partner. And that's a really unhealthy dynamic when we place all of our needs onto one person. Because there's no possible way that we could have these connections with all of these people and have all of our needs being met by one person. It's unfair, it's exhausting, and it's a recipe for expectation and disappointment. And I remember meeting this holy con man named Joe Rose. He goes by Gypsy Joe Rose. I was on tour with my band, and we met him on the coast. And I've told this story to a couple of friends recently, so it's fresh in my mind. But here's this holy con man. We pull up in our tour bus, 15 of us on the bus, and we park next to this man, and he's cleaning out the van that he clearly lives in. And we're in Pacifica, California, right on the beach. And I'm pulled off. We're going to prepare to make lunch for everybody in the band. And the band members file out and they meet Joe Rose, and they're just enamored. He's a holy con man. He's a hustler, street hustler, born and bred, but he's a street hustler with the sort of this angelic quality to him. He's very in tuned and very adept at the language of spirituality. And if we were 100 years in the past, he might be running a traveling gospel revival, passing the offering and living off the fat of the poor, but leaving them feeling completely and totally renewed when he left town. He was really good. So he's talking to the band, and I come out of the bus, and it's cold. It's cold at this time. It's November on the Northern California coast. So I have a big jacket on, a big puffy military style coat. And as soon as I come off the bus, Joe Rose looks and he's like, "Oh, there's your leader." And of course the band they were chagrined by this. And he's like, "Hey, you leader, come here. And I came over. I was like, "How you doing? I'm Michael." And he's like, Gypsy Joe Rose. Good to meet you. And then he puts his hand on my shoulder and he says, "Oh, brother, you're carrying a lot of pain. Brother, you feel betrayed. Someone stabbed you in the back, didn't they?" And I was floored. I had a 5-pound tumor in the middle of my back, and there's no way he could have seen that. He took his hand and he moved it around my back, and he said, "Yep, it's right here, brother. You're holding all that right there. That's lifetimes of pain, brother, lifetimes. That's betrayal." He's telling me these things, and my instinct is to, yeah, you're a hustler. I get this. But it cut right through all of those layers of doubt and all of those layers of separation. And he got right to this thing. And nobody had ever told me that before. Nobody had ever said, "You feel betrayed." I had never used those words. I had never understood for myself that that's what I was carrying, that's the story that I held in my body for my entire life, the story of betrayal. And it was a shocking moment. Flash forward about 6 years, 5 years. And I was in Portland, and I had the opportunity to go to a homeless clinic. We lived in our school bus, so we qualified as being unhoused. And at this clinic, they offered to remove this lipoma, but they said, we can only do just a light amount of local anesthetic, and we're going to have to remove that thing through a 2-inch incision with basic tools. We can't do a full open you up surgery with, blah, blah, blah. And okay. And so I come in, I'm there for my appointment. I actually asked the doctor if I could eat a couple of cannabis gummies to help my anxiety, and she said that should be fine. She said sometimes they would mess with the anesthesia, but this is a local anesthetic, so it should be fine. We're just numbing the skin to help decrease the damage that could be done. And so I ate the gummies and we got to work. And as she makes this incision and starts to pull this tumor out little bit by little bit, I start to get this overwhelming sensation of letting go just coming over my body. And I start to cry. And I didn't understand. And she said, "Are you in pain, Mr. Franklin?" I said, No, it's beautiful. It's beautiful." And she keeps going and keeps pulling, and She said, "What are you feeling, Mr. Franklin?" And I'm almost shivering in tears at points. And I said, "I'm feeling forgiveness." And my whole body was enraptured by this feeling of forgiveness as this thing was being taken out of my body for me. You know, whatever it was that I was carrying, and maybe it was all living in that tumor. I don't really know, but I do know that as I let this go, I was feeling this overwhelming sensation that it's okay to let go of what we hold on to so dearly. And I didn't realize how much I was able to dissociate in my life from my own needs and my own feelings of not having been provided with that kind of care, not having been provided with that kind of love or that kind of nurturing, um, to not have people soothing me as a child, not in that way, not in the way I needed. And it was by no fault of anyone that they couldn't do that. Their unavailability was lifelong. And I had made it about me so much so that I needed to disassociate from me for years of my life, because I thought if I'm not being loved and tended to and cared for by the people that are, quote, supposed to, end quote, do that, then it must be something wrong with me. I must just not be that lovable. I must just not be one who they really want to care for. And so I had held that story. But when you hold that story for long enough, you learn to step out of your own needs. That my needs are not the ones that are important. My feeling of comfort and to be soothed in that way is not that important. And so you learn to soothe in other ways. Instead of processing and allowing these things to move through our bodies and to know that we are safely held and can process the pain, it becomes trauma. It becomes unprocessed. And then that trauma, that's really, really difficult stuff. It's really stuck. It's in there like a tumor. It grows roots. Tumors grow roots and they root in. And that's what trauma does. It gets in there and it holds tight and it clings to parts. And so you start doing things to soothe yourself from the pain, but you're never really processing it. You never learn how to regulate. You never learn how to be in your own body. And so then you never learn how to love your own body. You never learn how to let someone love your own body. You never learn how to trust or be trusted because you survive. And that's good enough. So forgiveness, sometimes that's forced on us. Sometimes as a doctor's tearing you out bit by bit, you got to let go. And I think that same thing happens in other ways. Because I had to learn not only to forgive what happened to me as a child, that's much easier. That's much easier. I can forgive others really easily. I can look at someone and even if I'm angry or hurt or betrayed, at some point I can look at pretty much anyone and go, I understand it. I see what you're doing there. You're just surviving, friend. You're just doing what you need to do to protect yourself and to feel okay. Just trying to make it through. But forgiving myself, well, that was more difficult. Because there's the I should know better, I'm not good enough feelings. Those beliefs are really strong. And it comes out in different ways. I have different people in my life, And as we process these things together, it comes out as self-blame, it comes out as self-hatred, it comes out as self-importance, it comes out as separation, it comes out as all these different ways that we express our inability to let go of our belief that we don't belong. I was talking to another friend recently. She's an elder, and she was talking about how she never had anybody to soothe her. And so she had to learn how to do that herself. And that caused a lifelong distrust of others. So she was never really able to have a fully enriched feeling of deep love and in a relationship of like deep love with anybody, because she believed that she had to do that on her own. You know, she was never taught by anyone else that she had value. So she had to either learn to value herself and protect herself, or if for her, it would have been sure demise. She would have been lost in something that she couldn't have control over and couldn't get back. And she was saying that the hardest thing about that is forgiving herself for being in relationships that she knew that she just wasn't quite right for, but believing that it's the best that she deserved. And to do that in those places because they did not challenge her trust issues. So she would stay in these relationships. And she said, at this age in my life, I've let go of being in a relationship with anyone. It's probably not gonna happen. And that's okay. Romantic relationships get far too much importance in our culture, I think, because romantic relationships are often the one place that we go to heal our wounding from our parents or our childhoods, our siblings, whatever it is, all those woundings. We find a romantic relationship to use as our therapy, sort of try to suture all of our wounds with that one thread. But to hear her express without fear that she is learning to forgive herself and understand how to love herself for that was pretty big. And I think that what it comes down to is I hear people often say you don't have to forgive. And I don't agree with that. It's not about having to. You get to forgive. You get to be soft. I get to be soft again. I get to be embraced. I get to feel someone's hands wrap around my body, and I'm not ashamed of a lump full of betrayal in my back. I'm not scared of being seen. And I get to let those things soften me. I get to let myself start to understand and feel what it is to be loved some days. And it's phenomenal. And it helps me love so much deeper all of the people in my life. It helps me just sit and love, learning that someone is doing this to protect themselves. I was talking with one of my dear friends, and we were talking about when someone is dishonest in our lives. I love this person. I love, and it's not just one person. There's multiple people. This is something that comes up sometimes in our lives. People are dishonest. And I became aware of the understanding that I love this person and I would want to protect them. When they are doing that, that's their way of protecting themselves. There's something deep inside of them that they just want to protect. They want to protect it, so they're not going to be open about it. And that's okay. It's got to be okay. because I would want to protect them. So why would I not think it's wonderful that they have learned something to protect themselves? Let them protect themselves. And do not take it personally, because it's not about you. It's not about me. The feelings that I have of feeling upset are, well, I want to be the protector. I want to be the one to protect you. No, stop all of that. That's not your job. It's not your right. And that's not the way that you're going to love this person how they are right now. You're not going to love them by stepping in to protect them. You're going to love them by seeing them taking care of themselves in whatever way they can so that they can show up for you. Release the shame and the blame and the guilt. Release the feelings of not being the one that they're choosing to put all of their faith in this moment. So what? Just love. Just love that. You know? And then work on your own shit. Work on why it is you feel like you have to be something special. You don't just get to be special for being. You have to be something special. You have to represent something special. You have to earn somebody's love. You have to earn somebody's adoration. Where did that come from? That's the question. And that's where the forgiveness is waiting for you. It's waiting for me. It's waiting for me to sit down with it and say, all right, forgiveness, what is our work today? What is our work today? Oh, you don't have to be amazing and special and stand out of the crowd just to be worthy and valuable and loved. Yeah, good luck. Let's do that together. Let's do that work. Let's step out of those masks and those roles, and let's just try to be lovable in your own body right now. Can you be lovable? And are you able to be loved today? Maybe that's what love is asking of you today. Are you able to be loved just as you are? That's forgiveness. Okay, I've rambled on and on. It took a lot of rambling to get around to it, but I think I got to a place where I understand what it is I'm feeling. I hope that was helpful to anybody out there who thinks about forgiveness. I think it is important that I say that forgiveness is not about anybody else necessarily. Even if it's about forgiving somebody else, it's not about you having to tell that person unless you want to. Unless you want to participate in that relationship with them, that's okay. But I forgave my stepmom for years of abuse that stayed with me in such a way that I embodied it so deeply that I didn't even realize I carried it. I didn't even know that that's what it was that was driving my drug addiction and my fuck addiction and all of those things. Didn't even know. That's how deeply I embodied her hatred of me. But she didn't hate me. This is what I had to learn. It had nothing to do with me. She hated herself because she was taught as a young girl to hate herself, and she didn't know how to do anything but that. So that didn't have anything to do with me. So I forgave her. I forgave her because I knew I could make that same mistake. I talked about this a couple weeks ago, but I didn't tell her. That's her work. You can forgive someone and not even tell them. It's about you. So we're going to get to, hello, friend. We're going to get to the poem for today, and then we'll wrap up. We are working still in Bell Hooks' Appalachian Elegy, Poetry in Place. Come on in, friends. Yeah. You guys you're welcome to grab seats or cushions or whatever you would like to do. Okay, let's see if the Bell Hooks magic works today. We're on number 14 today. Let's see if Bell Hooks is going to tell us anything about forgiveness and growth. Yeah, I think so. Hard rain softens harder ground. From solid rock to mud, so thick feet go under, making every step dirge and trial, even as joy surfaces. At last today we plant, we hope. It's a short one. I want to read it again. It's exactly about forgiveness. It's exactly about forgiveness. Hard rain softens harder ground. From solid rock to mud so thick feet go under, making every step dirge and trial. Even as joy surfaces, at last today we plant, we hope. And hard rain softens harder ground. It's that thing when you have this really well built defense, this wall around your heart that you've created to not let something in the fear that it's going to shatter your heart or it's going to break your heart. So you create this hardness around parts of your life, and it keeps coming up. You keep coming up against it. That hard rain that softens that ground. That's our trials. That's also the way that love forces its way in. And if we can soften that ground, that's the forgiveness. And you have to understand that you build defenses around parts of yourself for a reason. You build defenses to protect yourself, just like you would protect a child, just like you would protect a small animal in a storm, like just any of these things. So don't hold yourself as cold or hard because you have hardened something to protect yourself. If you can love yourself as the protector, if you can love yourself in that moment as the one who has kept you safe to get here where this love is, this hard rain of love, then you can soften to it. But if you can only identify as this one who is terrified of anything hurting you, then you're going to maintain those defenses and that hardness, and you're going to have a difficult time loving yourself and forgiving yourself in that moment. And you might build such good defenses that it becomes so embodied in you that it's just the way you think you are. Well, this is just how I am. And you start defining yourself as I am this. But you're not. You're everything. You're anything. And one day you'll be nothing. So letting that love come in and soften that ground of defenses, I think that hard rain is the difficulties and the trials that we go through trying to learn our way into love. And that's forgivable. That's forgivable. It's forgivable that you would struggle with that. And if it's forgivable, it's lovable. And if it's lovable, it's forgivable. So thanks, Bell Hooks, for reminding us that once we break that open, we can plant and we can hope. I think remembering that planting is the hope for growth. We want to grow. We want to be larger so that we can take more in and we can become shelter. So thanks for being here this morning, friends. I hope this sit was helpful to you as it was to me. Thank you to Lily for asking for that topic today. Thank you to Angela for helping me come into some realizations about safety and protection and forgiveness. And thank you to each person who in my life has held space for me to be hard and cold and dark and dissociated and broken and fixed and loving and all of the things. I'll see you tomorrow. Take refuge in the Buddha, refuge in the Dharma, and refuge in the Sangha. Hariom.